Hello everyone, good afternoon and welcome to our Spring Festival 2021 events. Today's webinar is going to be, has been done in partnership with Student Minds, and today we have Ben Leatham from Student Minds, who is going to be actually sharing his presentation and some of the work that Student Minds actually do and how they can actually support you. So the other thing, guys, for all of you those who are attending, please, when you are looking at your screen up above, you're going to find two speech bubbles. One of them has a question mark. So if you do have any questions, please pop them in there. And at the end of the slideshow, I'm going to share the questions with Ben, and he's going to do his best to actually try to answer and offer support. So without further ado, Ben, over to you.
Thanks so much, and thanks so much for having me today on a bank holiday Monday, and it's very rainy where I am up in Leeds, so I'm not sure where you all are, but hopefully you're managing to stay dry. So as was said, I'm Ben. I'm from Student Minds, which is an organisation that essentially works to support students with their mental health all around the country. And I'm here today to talk about how we're supporting students through the pandemic and the different support opportunities that are available to students, including all of you guys. So it's great to be here. So firstly, just to introduce Student Minds and who we are, if you don't know, we are the UK's student mental health charity, and that involves a whole different range of activity that we do, which you might be interested in. So we do things like peer support groups with students, campaign groups to try and enact change with students. We work with students' unions and universities and accommodation providers to try and upskill them on mental health and help them look out for the signs of poor mental health in students, but also support them to support students actually when they do notice those signs. We also do a lot of research and policy work, trying to find out what works when it comes to student mental health and what doesn't, and work with lobbying groups and various other organisations to try and enact change on a more national level in terms of things like funding and policies that are more government driven. And then we also develop digital resources, which are for students like yourselves to access and use to make sure that we can support your mental health in the best way possible. So that's Student Minds and who we are. And just to kind of set the scene with student mental health and wellbeing in general, because I think it's important to start with what's the lay of the land here. And just some quick stats. There are currently 2.4 million students at UK universities, which is a huge number of people. And I think it's often not considered a demographic when we're thinking about kind of the UK and mental health, but actually it's a huge number of people that are going through quite a unique experience that can have an impact on their mental health. So I think recognising the number of people is really important. We also know that 1 in 3 students suffer clinical levels of psychological distress during their formative years. And for a lot of you students, they're at university during their formative years. So that's a huge number of people that is important to be looking out for and thinking about, that are potentially struggling with their mental health. We also know that of people who do develop mental health difficulties, 75% of them develop them by their mid-20s. So it's really clear here that mental health and wellbeing is a big thing for students, and it's something we need to be working collectively to try and support people with and recognise and prevent. But what's causing this, and what are the pressures that contribute to people and the struggles that they have during their time at university? There's a whole host of different things: academic, financial and social pressures, and these can come in all sorts of different ways. And I know all of you will be experiencing all of these in different ways, but I think starting with this is really important. So from the academic side of things, kind of you have work to do, you have pressures on you, you're paying money to go to university. There's a lot there. There's also the financial side of stuff. It costs money to go to university. It costs money to sustain yourself, especially for people from certain backgrounds. It might be more difficult. And there's also the social pressures. You're thrown into a whole new group of people, potentially far away from where you grew up, and that can be really difficult and stressful. So all of these things are kind of a mishmash that are happening all at once, that students are having to kind of work with and manage. And we also know that there are certain groups that are facing these pressures more than others, people like student parents or people who are having to undertake paid work whilst they're at university to support them, and that can be added pressure on top of the existing pressures that are there. And that's not to say that university isn't a fantastic experience and there are great opportunities to have fun and enjoy yourself, but it's also important to recognise there are pressures alongside there that we need to try and think about. What does that all mean in terms of impact? We know that in the same way that the pressures are academic, financial and social, the impacts can also be financial, academic and social. So things like impacts on people's academic performance, their ability to kind of maintain a job potentially if they're doing paid work, or their relationships with their peers and your guys' friends and families, can all have a massive impact if you are struggling with your mental health. And I think also what's often forgotten about, aside from kind of these direct implications, is your ability just to enjoy life and to thrive and make the most of your time at university. I think if you're struggling with your mental health, it can be really difficult to balance that. And I think with the pressures of going to university and the kind of the framing of having a really good time, and if you're not, that can be really difficult. So just to set the scene really of lots of students in the UK, quite a few of them do experience poor mental health at some point, and that's for a whole host of different reasons. But there is also lots of support on offer there, which I'm going to talk you through now, that you can access if you are struggling with your mental health at the minute. But I think it's also important to talk about this in the context of the pandemic and everything that's happened over the past year, because students have been through a rough time in the same way that everyone else has. And there's been specific things that you guys have experienced that are probably contributing to difficulties and challenges and struggles that I think it's important to recognise as well. And a lot of you might recognise some of these things, and there might be other things that you've experienced as well that I'm not highlighting here. Firstly, we know that student mental health challenges existed before COVID-19. This isn't a new thing, but it has potentially been exacerbated because of the pandemic. Things like financial difficulties. So a lot of people who do paid work at university probably now can't because of the situation of the economy. That's a really difficult thing for some people. Life after university, what's the world going to be like? Who knows? It's really tricky. Different inequalities in terms of being able to access financial support or health, and yeah, access to effective treatment as well. So some of the issues that a lot of you might have been experiencing already have been exacerbated, and I think important to recognise that. Other things are changing, like a lot of the ways that you have been accessing your learning is really tricky, and it has changed dramatically over the past year. But there's also things like who has access to devices. If you don't have access to a laptop at the minute, that's really tricky in terms of being able to engage with your learning. And some things that are new. There are new challenges here that a lot of you might be facing. If you're working, for example, if you're a student nurse working in a hospital, that's going to have a massive impact on your experience over the past year with the pandemic. But also things like postgraduates who might be having to do field work and all sorts of other things that are new challenges that we're having to face as students at the minute because of the pandemic. We also know that not all students have been impacted by the pandemic equally. There are certain groups who might benefit more from support because of the different inequalities that they might be facing, whether that's because they're from a working class background, they might not have access to the financial support that others might have, or the existing inequalities in other aspects of student life that are kind of filtering through now to how you guys are all responding to the pandemic. But what are we doing at Student Minds to support students during the pandemic? And that's really what I'm here to talk about today. And hopefully it'll give you some ideas if you are looking for support where you can go for it. And what I really want to do is introduce you to Student Space, if you haven't heard about it before. And Student Minds launched Student Space in August 2020 to essentially help you guys find the support that you need during coronavirus, because as we've just heard, there's lots of different stuff happening and it's a really tricky period for everyone. So it's a website that you can go on and there's lots of different support that you can access. So I'd recommend you kind of hopping on at the same time as I was speaking if you want to. It's at studentspace.org.uk. So maybe have a look around as I'm speaking. But essentially it works to support students in three different ways, and I'm going to talk you through that now, and it'll kind of outline the ways that you can get support. So firstly, the whole range of dedicated support services that we've launched, which you can access. And the first host of that is this is available to anyone, any student in the UK can access this. So there's phone support, which is available from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. There's web chat support, similar, 4 to 11 p.m. There's tech support, which is 24/7. So you can dive on there and text student to 85258, and there'll be a trained volunteer there who can talk to you in a confidential and anonymous way and really help you through whatever you might be experiencing. And there's also email support there as well. So we're working in partnership with a couple of different organisations to deliver. They're called the Mix and Shout. The Mix really specialises in supporting kind of young people with their mental health, and the Shout runs a text line for mental health support generally, and they've really targeted in with students here with us, which is great. So this is available to you, and there's an opportunity there, regardless of day or time, that you can access support if you need it. Because I know that in various different ways there can be issues with waiting times in some places and getting the access to the support that you need as quickly as possible. This is here for you if you need it, and I really recommend you utilising it. We've had lots of positive feedback from people about it being helpful to them. So please do note this down, but you can also go onto the website and have a look at this and access the support through there as well. All the information is on Student Space, if that's helpful to you. We also know, as I've already touched on, that not all students have been impacted by the pandemic equally. And we're really excited to have launched a new package of support that's more tailored to certain groups that we know might benefit from support specifically. And this is the range of different support that we've just launched. So firstly, support for Black students. We're running online peer support workshops that people can go to and talk through the different issues and challenges and joy as well of being a Black student in the UK and what that means in terms of engaging with university life. Across a whole different range of different themes and topics on a weekly basis. There's 2 workshops that are happening every week there, and we're doing that in collaboration with an organisation called Black People Talk, who are really experts in this. Support for Muslim students, we're working with the Muslim Youth Helpline, which is a helpline that you can go on and call any time of day to access support as a Muslim student. We're also working with an organisation called Taraki to support Punjabi students through online support groups as well, in a similar way to the support for Black students there. We also know, though, that students with specific mental health experiences or challenges could do with some specific support as well. So we're working with an organisation called OCD Action to run online sessions for students who are experiencing OCD symptoms or body dysmorphic disorder symptoms, and there's an opportunity there to talk to others who might be experiencing similar things and share some of the challenges, but also opportunities for supporting yourself and others, and also support for students who might be hearing voices. So there's an online peer support group that we're running for that. We're also working with Mermaids to now expand their support to 25-year-olds for trans and gender questioning students. And we're also working with an organisation called Reclaim to run a monthly webinar and podcast series exploring the challenges that students from working class backgrounds face. So as you can see, there's a whole host of different opportunities there for different student groups that the evidence shows, and what we're hearing from students is that they're struggling potentially more than others at the minute. As I said, that's all also available through the website. So please do dive on there and have a look and sign up for some of this stuff or engage with it if it would be helpful to you. What we're also doing is producing a range of different information tools and stories for students to access that we know against the different challenges and issues that students are facing at the minute to really kind of unpack the experiences that you're having and support you in the right way. All of it is developed with kind of clinicians who really know what they're talking about and have the experience in the area, but also in collaboration with students to unpack the different things that you actually are experiencing and hopefully produce some information and tools that are helpful to you. as you can see here on the website, there's really clearly kind of categories and topics that we're unpacking. So studying during coronavirus, for example, we know that can be really difficult at the minute, and especially because you're having to do a lot of it remotely, but also the self-isolation that comes with life at the minute, and that being particularly difficult for students when you're supposed to be kind of socializing and meeting lots of people. And a whole range of different topics from kind of accessing support to getting a graduate role, to loneliness, lots of other topics that we know people are struggling with at the minute. We're also working with students to produce a whole range of different video content that might be helpful to you, to hear from students themselves, your peers, about what they're experiencing and what's working for them at the minute in terms of being able to manage the challenges that they're facing. So, for example, Kezia talking about her experience as a minority student and navigating the challenges of that, but also unpacking some of the themes and issues. So starting your first graduate job during a pandemic, doing that virtually at the minute, that's quite tricky. And we kind of unpack some of that with students in these videos here. So if you're more of a video-based kind of learner, or you like watching videos of others, I definitely recommend this as the place to go to see what others are experiencing and what's working for them. And then lastly, and I think this is really important, is signposting to university support, because yes, Student Space is here to as a national resource that students can go on and access, but all of your universities will also offer different support services that you can go and access. But I know at times they can be kind of quite tricky to unpack what's available and how to access it. So we tried to make it as easy as possible for you. Cool. So firstly, you can go on the website and find this different support that's available at your university by putting in your university title. And what will happen then is it'll come up with the list of different support opportunities and packages that are there at your specific university to access, and it'll signpost you off to that. So you can go on there and have a look and yeah, essentially work out what's available, what's relevant to you, and you can go and access it, because we want to, the purpose of Student Space is to kind of support the existing offers that are already there at your university. They're kind of working in tandem together to make sure that you guys have the support you need at the minute. So if you're unsure of what's available at your own university, I really recommend diving into this resource and having a look around. And before I go on to the next slide, what I'm going to do is just show you the site itself. So as I said, studentspace.org.uk, and it should be really easy to navigate and get around. So you've got the advice, information, and tools at the top here. You can dive into the student stories here, and the different support services here. And then you can find support at your university at the bottom here. So it should all be quite easy and simple. But if you want to know more information, we've got an about section here. And there's also an email address that you can email as well. But hopefully that's all really clear, and it's a resource that you can use going forward, but also share with your pals and friends, and make sure that everyone has access to the support that's available here, because I think the feedback we're getting is really great from students, but the more people that know about it, the better, because then we can make sure as many people get the support that they need. Aside from Student Space, though, I also wanted to bring your attention to a couple of different things. So firstly, the Wellbeing thesis. And now the content on here isn't pandemic specific, but it is specifically for postgraduate students, and kind of research students in particular, who we know face specific challenges whilst they're at university. So that's a real resource there that we've developed with clinicians and students as well a few years back, that hopefully has a load of content that might be helpful to you. We also have the Student Minds blog, which is actually kind of ran by and the content is produced by students. So this isn't us writing this content at Student Minds, it's the students themselves talking about what their experiences at university are, what's working for them, what are the challenges. And we're really proud of the students that are involved in this and driving this. And I'd really recommend, if you like hearing about other people's experiences, if you enjoy the student stories, for example, diving into the Student Minds blog and having a look at the different blogs that have been posted. But also, if you're interested in writing something yourself, you can also get in touch with them and write your own piece about your own experience and maybe help others who might be feeling similar things. So there's lots of opportunities there to kind of get support that's hopefully tailored to you. And that's it really for me. That's kind of the whole package that we've got going on at Student Minds at the minute. And we're always on the hunt for new ideas and things that you think might help support students during the pandemic and the different challenges that people are facing. So do get in touch with us. There's an email on the Student Space website if that's helpful. And yeah, we'd love to hear your feedback as well. If there's anything that isn't quite working for you or you really enjoy about the site, we'd love to hear from you. But that was just a whistle-stop tour and hopefully helpful for you to understand what support's on offer for you from Student Minds.
Thanks, Ben. This is really, really brilliant. Just a quick one. As I said, for all of you who are attending, don't forget you can ask Ben any questions that you may have via this portal. There is a little speech bubble, the question mark. We just had one pop up. It says, I guess, I struggled with loneliness. And I think you've touched on that as a part of the pandemic. So again, if you want to get for any further comments to the student, if you want to pass on anything else.
Yeah, I think there's definitely there's some information resources on the site about loneliness at the minute, because I know that it's something that a lot of people are struggling with because of the way we're struggling to socialise with others, because we've been told to try and socially distance and stay indoors. So I think it's definitely something that a lot of people are struggling with, and there are resources on there to help you with that specific issue, which I'd recommend having a look at. But also those support services as well, if you just want someone to talk to you about how you're feeling, which I know can be tricky in different circumstances, whether it's by text or by phone, email or web chat, there are opportunities there to engage with someone who can help unpack what you're experiencing and talk to you about it and support you. So I'd really recommend, yeah, having a look through the site, and there's definitely stuff that's relevant to loneliness there.
Okay, we have Autumn, who has asked the question, will it provide some activities?
Yeah, so I think what we've really focused on is kind of support and making sure there's different opportunities for support. So I guess in terms of activities, there's, for those different groups, there's the specific groups that I highlighted. There's like workshops that you can go to and peer support groups, but they're quite focused on mental health and wellbeing in particular. I'd say if you're looking for kind of more social activities or activities to do with other people, I'd really look to your own university or your students' union, who I'm sure will be putting on some activities that are appropriate to the pandemic at the minute, to support you guys with staying social and doing things with other people. So I'd say the support that's on offer through Student Spaces is quite focused around mental health and wellbeing and talking about your experiences. And your university and your students' union might be there for more kind of social activities.
We have another student who has the question, the $1 million question, which is, will it get easier next academic year?
It's really tricky to say, to be honest, and I think we're all watching and seeing what the government's announcing and what freedoms we might get or changes that might happen. But I think what we can do and what we do know is that we've learned a lot over the past year when it comes to mental health in students and what people are finding difficult and what support is really helpful. And so I think what we're seeing is that it's unlikely to go straight back to normal. I think that's the messaging that's coming out of the government and universities. But I think what's great is that we've learned so much and we can start implementing that and making sure that students get the support that they need going forward. So even if we're not all the way back to normal, I think know that Student Space and Student Minds is going to be here for you, and we can help you out in the coming few months, definitely.
Brilliant answer. And I think, as I said, well, this whole festival that Unite Students have actually put up, it's very much in line with the activities that we want the students to get engaged, that we want them to become more active and part of the community. We are trying to encourage that behavior, and fingers crossed, as I said, as we are slowly starting to come out of the lockdown, we really want to see further engagement. I'm hoping it's going to be far better from September, and our current students will get to experience being students. So you were students only 5 years ago, Ben, so you remember how it was.
Despite my it was 5 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a few extra years for me, but yeah, as I say, everything that you touched on, I'm currently a student myself. I'm currently studying my MBA as a postgraduate, so the pressures are immense. You know, it's not easy studying online, especially if you're used to classroom, at least some kind of form of contact with the tutors. That's difficult. I know everybody's a struggle with financially. We have a lot of students and a lot of the young people who live with us, you know, where the parents have lost jobs, you know, the jobs that they were counting on, they couldn't actually, you know, get the jobs. So the financial pressures are quite high. And then there's the other part of, you know, genuinely being lonely. You can't, you know, you're trying to keep to your bubble, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
You know, you do want to get out of there and you want to actually be social creatures. So to all of you out there, you guys have been doing brilliantly. Just, you know, bear a little bit longer. You know, I genuinely believe there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So any other questions? I'm going to wait another minute. There is nothing else popping up. We can give them another minute. Let's see what comes out.
Absolutely. No, I really agree with you. I think hopefully as the next few months roll by, and I think all the indications are looking good, that hopefully things will be opening up again more and more, that people can start having more of a normal student experience that we know people look forward to so much, and yeah, start to meet new people and yeah, have that student life that people really want. So fingers crossed, we carry the trajectory.
Thank you, Ben. I don't see any further questions coming on. So this is a nice, short and sweet. Guys, please take note of Student Minds website. If you have any further questions, please do get in touch with them. You are all in Unite Student Properties. Come downstairs, speak to our team members on a reception, or our safety team members. We are there to support you, offer advice, and signpost you to any other support that we can offer. So with all that being said, thank you very much, Ben. For all of you, all the rest of you, have a wonderful the rest of the bank holiday weekend, and we'll be seeing you in our next event. I believe tomorrow we have academic support webinar, which is going to be about the academic writing and tackling that critical analysis. So please do join us. It's Tuesday 5:30, or if you want again for academic support, it's going to be on Wednesday at 1 o'clock. With that said, thank you very much, and we see you again soon. Cheerios, bye all. Bye.